Hello, guys. How are you today? Welcome back to my podcast. This is episode 5, and it's been some time since we have been doing this. Today, we have come with a little bit of different topic, but I know it will be interesting, and some of you will be benefiting from it, and some topics are not talked about so much oftenly. So today I come up with a known topic that everybody would like to hear, and I know it will be interesting for some of you because there are some topics that you can't go around hearing about. And today I want to talk to you about something very special, and it's all about addiction. Addiction is a big word, but today I want to get into it in a sorts of addiction. Today I want to go into it, and thank you for subscribing to my podcast, and I appreciate all of you subscribers that have just joined, the new ones and the old ones. I appreciate you. Welcome back to another episode of Mr. Evioomatic podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube and listening somewhere, or you have just discovered this podcast for the first time, you are welcome. Today we are going somewhere a little bit deeper, not the usual things that we have been talking about, because we are going to talk about something that affects millions of people, but very few people want to talk about it openly. And we are talking about addiction. And I don't want this episode to be about judging people, okay? It's not all about judging people. And I don't want it to be like it's about standing here and saying those people are weak. Those people have no discipline. Why don't they just stop? Because addiction is more than something you think. It is complicated more than you think. Okay? Because sometimes the person you think has everything together is fighting something privately, and sometimes people making everybody laugh is struggling when they are alone. The most people you see, okay, you might see someone acting so nicely and happily in an environment, but when they are alone, they feel so low. Okay? Sometimes the person who looks successful on the outside is desperately trying to escape something happening inside. Okay? And also, sometimes the addiction isn't even obvious. There are so many types of addictions people face all around the world. And it might be substance, it might be pornography, it might be gambling, it might be social media, it might be gaming, constantly checking on your phone. It might be shopping, it might be food, it might be work, or chasing attention. It might be constantly seeking relationships. Or it might also be using entertainment every time you feel uncomfortable with your own thoughts. And that's what we are going to talk about today. Because I believe one of the biggest mistakes we make is thinking addiction is only looks in one particular way. It doesn't. Some addictions are visible, others are invisible. And some of the most dangerous battles are the ones nobody knows you are fighting. Okay? So this is my connection to this specific topic. Before we go deeper, I want to tell you why I'm talking about this. This isn't just a random podcast topic. I woke up and I decided to discuss, like I just didn't wake up to come here and discuss this topic with you. Okay? I actually wrote a book about this topic. And this book is called Unchained, A Silent War Against the Shadows. And the reason I chose the word unchained is simple. Because addiction can feel like being chained to something. I know you can relate. You know you want to change. You may even promise yourself, tomorrow I'm going to stop. Then tomorrow comes and you do it again. Then you feel disappointed. You tell yourself, this is the last time. Then the cycle starts again. And eventually you begin questioning yourself, what's wrong with me? Why can't I control myself? Why do I keep going back? And that's where the shame enters the picture. And the shame can make the situation even worse. Because now you are not only fighting yourself over the behavior, but you are fighting how you feel about yourself. That's one reason I wrote Unchained. I wanted to explore the hidden side of compulsive behavior and the different forms addiction can take in the modern life. Not as a medical textbook, not as somebody pretending to have every answer, but as a conversation, a human conversation. Because before we start changing something, sometimes we have to be willing to admit, like, yes, this is really happening. Okay? We have to accept that really, this is really happening. So, what is addiction really? Let's start with that obvious question. What is addiction? Because we usually imagine addiction as someone drinking heavily, or someone taking drugs, or someone gambling away with money. And yes, those can be absolutely be addictions. But the deeper issue is often the repeated pattern of the behavior despite the negative consequences. Something gives you a reward, you repeat it, then your brain learns the pattern. You begin craving the reward. Eventually, the behavior can be extremely difficult to control. And here is something important. Not every habit is an addiction. You can enjoy watching movies without being addicted to movies. You can enjoy social media without being addicted to social media. And you can enjoy the food without having an unhealthy relationship with food. Okay? You can enjoy gaming without gaming controlling your life. The problem comes with when something starts taking control. When you are losing time, losing money, losing relationships, losing opportunities, losing sleep, losing focus, losing confidence, and you still keep returning to the same pattern. That's when we need to stop laughing and start asking serious questions. What's really going on here? So, addiction has a cycle itself because it has patterns, it's repetitive. So let's talk about the addiction cycle. Because addiction doesn't often begin with, I want to destroy my life. That's not what it begins with. And nobody wakes up and says, today I'm going to become addicted. It can start very small. Maybe you are stressed. Maybe you have a bad day. You feel lonely. You are anxious. Or you are bored. Or you are rejected. You are disappointed. You are angry. You don't know what to do with your emotions. Then you discover something that makes you feel better for a moment. Maybe it's scrolling on the phone or laptop or any gadget. Maybe it's gambling. Maybe it's pornography. Maybe it's alcohol, gaming, shopping, constantly looking for attention. And suddenly, you don't have to think about the problem anymore. You feel relief. And your brain remembers that relief. Next time you are stressed, you return to the same behavior, and then it becomes a pattern. Stress, behavior, temporary relief, regret, more stress, then repeat. Okay? So that's how the cycle can become extremely powerful. That's why simply telling someone just stop may not address what's underneath. The question isn't only what you're doing. Sometimes the more important question is, what are you trying to escape from? That's what you need to ask yourself. So we have addiction and stress. Let's talk about this. Because stress is everywhere. People are worried about money, jobs, relationship, family, school, business, health, the future, and the social pressure. And nowadays we are constantly exposed to other people's life. You open your phone and see someone buying a new car, someone getting married, traveling, building a house, making money, showing success, and suddenly you start looking at your own life thinking, why am I not there? You know that mentality people keep asking themselves, why am I not there yet? You know, social media can make everybody's else highlight real look, like your failure documentary. Like you be on the phone scrolling and you see someone doing well, they are celebrating baby showers, marriages, birthdays, building a house, and you know, you might feel like, what's going on really with me? Am I the problem? And that can create pressure. Stress doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes you just become tired. I mean deeply tired. You can't concentrate, you become irritated, you don't sleep properly, you overthink. Okay? And that's how stress comes all about. And sometimes you start looking for an escape. That's where some unhealthy habits can enter. And this is something I want people to understand. Don't only fight the behavior, but investigate the trigger. Ask yourself, when do I normally do this? Okay? And what am I feeling before I do it? Am I lonely? Am I angry, anxious, bored, or am I avoiding something? Because sometimes the behavior is the only smoke. That's the fire underneath. When you get to know what makes you do that, you can at least start from there. If you know the real cause of why you are doing this, the time, the mood, the time you do it, you can be able to start from somewhere. So let's talk about anxiety and addiction. Let's talk about anxiety. Anxiety can make your mind feel like it has 50 browser tabs open, and none of them are loading properly. You try to replay the conversations, you worry about tomorrow, you worry about money, you worry about what somebody thinks about you. You imagine that the worst possible outcome. Like, your brain wants relief, so you can find something that distracts you. You scroll, you watch something, you play something, consume something, chase something, and for a few minutes, you don't have to think about that attraction. Okay? Not necessarily the behavior itself. Sometimes it's the escape from the mind. You are trying to escape what you are having in your mind. And this is where we need to be careful. Because if every uncomfortable emotion is followed by escape, we will never learn how to sit with discomfort. We never learn how to process it. We never learn how to say, I'm anxious, but I'm going to go through this. Instead, we learn, I'm anxious, so I need something immediately. And that can create dependence, which will be repetitive, like every time. Let's get into it. The modern addictions. The current addictions. Now, let's talk about something uncomfortable. I know all of you are not comfortable with this, but let's talk about it. Phones. Everybody has a phone. And you who's watching me, you have a phone or a laptop or anything, but especially a phone is more, it's easier, it's accessible. And I'm also holding one right now. It's here in my hand, as you can see. And technology itself isn't evil. It can educate us, connect us, just like now we are connected. It can help us make money, just like a lot of people who are making money online and everywhere. It can help us build business, create content, just like this content I'm creating right now. We can learn new skills, communicate with people. But the same technology can become a trap. You wake up in the morning, even before you go to sleep, you first check your phone. You are eating, you are checking your phone. You are working, you are checking your phone. You are talking to someone, just you are having a mere conversation, then your phone vibrates. Then you immediately have to look who has sent you a message over your phone. And sometimes you don't even know why you are checking it. Your hand just goes there. So that's worth thinking about, because companies have spent years designing platforms to keep people engaged. Notifications, recommendation, short form videos, endless scrolling, likes, comments, messages. Every little thing can pull your attention. Every little thing can pull your attention. And the attention is valuable. Your attention is literally your life. Because wherever your attention goes, your time follows. And where your time goes, your life follows. So ask yourself, where is my attention going every day? Ask yourself that question. So let's go to another topic today. Pornography, compulsive sexual behavior, and shame. Now we are going to talk about, or we are getting into this topic that people often avoid: pornography. And I want to handle this responsibly. There are people who struggle with compulsive pornography use and sexual behaviors and feel unable to control the pattern. That's the truth. And the problem isn't helped by pretending it doesn't exist, but it's also not helped by humiliating people. Shame can make someone hide, These are sensitive topics. Not everyone talks about them. They are shared in private. And hiding makes it harder to seek help. If someone is struggling with a behavior they can't control, the conversation should be, what's happening? Okay? What triggers it? How is it affecting your life? What support do you need? Those should be the questions, but not like you're disgusting, you are worthless, no one will ever respect you. That is not recovery. That is destruction. And this is one of the reasons I included this conversation in my book called Unchained. Because there are people fighting private battles they are terrified to tell anybody about. And sometimes what they need first isn't condemnation. They need honesty. They need accountability. They need support. And when appropriate, professional help can work. Okay? So, another topic on this matter. Let's talk about gambling, money, and addiction. Let's talk about another one. Gambling. This one can destroy a person's finances incredibly quickly. You lose, you tell yourself, maybe I will win it back. You lose again. Now you are thinking, I can't stop here. You place another bet. I know you people who do betting and stuff. You lose. And now you are chasing your losses. That is a trap. You are not gambling because you are enjoying the game anymore. You are gambling because you are trying to recover what you lost. You are avenging to the money you suddenly lost. And suddenly, rent money becomes betting money. Food money becomes betting money. Business money becomes betting money. Savings all in your accounts, they disappear. And the person may still tell everybody, I am okay. That's the danger of addiction. It can make people lie to themselves before they lie to everyone else. another topic. I hope you are following, and I hope you are picking some important message. I hope it helps you out wherever you are. Yeah, these are uncomfortable situations that are not spoken about more, but people need to get to know what's really going on around the world, so that they understand that they are not alone. Some other people around the world might be going through the same phase in life, so you need to understand that you are not alone, and with the required help, you can pass all the situations that are trying to mess you up. So let's go to another topic: addiction and relationship. Addiction doesn't only affect a person struggling, it can affect everybody around them: parents, children, partners, friends, business partners. People who love you much watch you change. Maybe become distant, secretive, maybe money disappears, you stop keeping promises, your personality completely changes, and eventually people don't know how to help you anymore. That's why addiction is not just an individual issue, it is oftenly a family issue. And if you are watching this and someone you love is struggling, you can support them, but you cannot always control their recovery. You can encourage them to get particular help. You can establish boundaries. You can protect yourself and your family. And you don't have to destroy yourself trying to save another person. Love needs boundaries too. So let's get into the big question for today. What are you escaping really? I know a lot of people are addicted to sort of things around the world, but the question is that, and there are so many people who are trying to recover. They have done the big part of recovering whatever addiction they are facing. But the big question, what are you trying to recover from? What are you escaping? Now I want to ask you a question. I'm not a preacher or a doctor, not as someone sitting above you or anything. As one human being talking to another, we're just talking, me and you, we're just having a conversation. What are you escaping from? Seriously. Think about it. What do you run? What do you run to when life becomes uncomfortable? What do you do when you are stressed? What do you do when you are lonely? What do you do when you are rejected? What do you do when you are angry? What do you do when you don't know what your future looks like? Because sometimes the things we are addicted to isn't the real problem. The real problem might be pain, loneliness, fear, trauma, insecurity, stress, boredom, unresolved emotions, or simply not knowing what to do with ourselves. That can also lead us to such situations. And if you don't address what's underneath, you can replace one addiction with another. You stop one thing and you stop another. You quit gambling but become obsessed with something else. You stop scrolling but become addicted to work. You stop one behavior but find another escape. That's where this type of awareness that I'm doing now matters, because people have to know that recovery is possible, and you can recover from whatever you are addicted to as long as you get the proper awareness. Okay, so the next topic is that how do we begin to break the cycle? Like one day you are addicted to this, and as you are trying to recover, then you find another thing, you become addicted to this something else, so the cycle keeps on growing. Now I'm going to tell you, how do we begin to break the cycle? What can someone really actually do to break the cycle? Because you might know that, okay, you might be addicted, but you don't know how to break the cycle. Okay, so the first thing is that you have to admit it. Stop lying to yourself. You don't have to announce it to the whole world, but be honest with yourself. Okay, say this: this is affecting me. That is not weakness. That is awareness. You are aware that something is really messing with you deep down. You are aware. Okay? That is the first step. Admit that really something is really messing me up. Okay? You have to first be aware that something is really. You have to stop lying to yourself and you admit. The next thing after admitting, you have to identify what triggers. Identify your triggers. What really triggers me to be addicted to cocaine, be addicted to anything? Okay? Ask yourself, when does it happen? Know the time it happens. Follow the time it happens. Okay? What am I feeling like? Where am I in case this addiction is happening? Where am I? Who am I around with? Because even addiction can be coming from the people you are living with, like people you are always with at certain different times of the day. You have to follow the pattern. You have to identify the triggers. Okay, so you also have to know what happened immediately before it. So you need to start recognizing the patterns. The third thing is that remove access where possible. Okay? If you feel like something is messing you up, okay, you have to at least change your environment. If something constantly triggers you, create a distance from it. Block, delete, unfollow, change your routines. Okay? Put barriers between yourself and the behavior. Okay? Another thing is that replace the habit. You can just remove something and leave an empty space. Okay? Because you can't just come from being addicted to something, then you change into something. But before, you have to make sure you replace it with something at least nicer or healthier. Like in case you have been addicted to something, at least replace it with something healthier like exercise, walking, learning, reading, building something, talking to someone, prayer or spiritual practices. If that's meaningful to you, creative work, community, and healthy routines. Another one is that talk to someone. I know it's difficult. Some addiction issues are really difficult to speak out. You don't have to carry everything. You don't have to carry everything alone inside. A trusted person can help. And if the addiction is severe, dangerous, or difficult to control, seek help from a qualified mental health or addiction professional. There is no shame in asking for help. Okay? Another, stop expecting perfection. Stop expecting that you are going to be perfect in one day, because recovery isn't always a straight line. A setback doesn't mean you have failed forever. It means you need to understand what happened and adjust. Learn, reset, and continue. Okay? So the reason why I wrote my book, I'll be sharing with you information about my book. My book is called Unchained, A Silent War Against Shadows. And that brings me to my book. I didn't want to create something that simply says, don't do bad things. No, because that is too easy. I wanted to explore the shadows, the things people don't say, the habits that begin quietly, the emotions behind compulsive behavior, the relationship between stress, shame, distraction, anxiety, and addiction. The different forms of addiction addiction can take, and most importantly, the possibility to change or to recover. Because I believe people should not be permanently defined by their worst period. No. You can always go through the difficult period in your life, and your past can explain you. Because if you go through a very dangerous state, like if you have been through a very difficult state in your life and you go through it, like that's a good change. Okay? And if you have you have been struggling through a lot of addiction within your life, those addictions don't have to own you. Okay? And that is the message behind the word unchained. That's why I wrote that book, because I knew someday it might help someone. It's available on Amazon, and you can look out on Amazon. It's called Unchained. I'll be giving you the details about, I'll get into my books in another video, because I have like some books on Amazon. They're available for sale. So actually, this is just actually the only beginning. This podcast is going to be exploring subjects that people generally deal with. We are going to talk about mental pressure, relationship, money, technology, success, failure, young people, family, personal development, and the things we often hide behind a smile. And I'm also going to continue developing projects connected to the ideas behind my book Unchained, because I don't want this to be only a book sitting somewhere online. I want the conversation to continue. The book is one project, the podcast is another, and there are more things that I'm cooking, okay? My final message. Before we end this podcast, I want you to remember something. You might be struggling with something right now. Maybe nobody knows. Maybe your family doesn't know. Maybe your friends don't know. Maybe you have never told anyone. But listen carefully. You are not automatically, you as a person, you are not automatically your addiction. You are a human being experiencing a battle. And battles can be fought. Don't romanticize addiction. Don't pretend it is shameless. Don't ignore the consequences. But don't turn your struggle into a reason to hate yourself either. If you ever messed up, learn. If you have fallen, get back up. If you have been hiding, find someone safe to talk to. If you need professional help, seek it. And if somebody you love is struggling, don't automatically turn them into a monster. Sometimes people need accountability. They need boundaries. They need consequences. But sometimes they also need somebody brave enough to say, I see that you're struggling. Let's find a way forward. And that's the heart of this episode. Addiction is not always loud. Sometimes it's silent, sitting behind the screen, hiding behind success, hiding behind laughter, hiding behind I'm fine. So check yourself, check your friends, check on the people you love, and ask yourself one more powerful question. What am I really trying to escape from? Because if you know whatever you're trying to escape from, you can always find a way. Because maybe the turning point begins when you finally are honest enough to answer it. I'm Mr. Evioomatic. This has been the episode that you have been watching, episode 6. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If this conversation helped you, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Subscribe for the podcast and stay connected, because we are getting started. And remember, you are not broken. You are battling, and battles can be won. Until next time, stay awake, stay creative, stay focused, and keep moving forward. Mr. Evioomatic Podcast out. So, what's up, people?